What's up, everyone? Welcome to my corner of the internet. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is Crossover Commerce, presented by PingPong Payments, the leading global payments provider helping sellers keep more of their hard-earned money. Happy Friday, everyone. What's up? I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and welcome to another episode of Crossover Commerce, presented by PingPong Payments. This is episode 77. You've made it all the way to Friday. Congratulations to you, the listeners out there. If you're up or just waking up with your first cup of coffee, or you're still trying to get going for the day, we appreciate you joining us live on this show on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. A little bit, but before we get started today, a little bit about PingPong. We provide marketplace sellers and entrepreneurs global solutions for controlling their domestic and international funds, all in one account that enables companies to significantly reduce their cost when receiving or making international payments. For more information about PingPong or want to sign up for free today, go ahead and check out that link below. In the show notes, make sure you click there to start saving on your international FX at least 25%. Go ahead and click on that link to learn more about PingPong and get started today. But again, if you're watching us live, we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us again on another episode, whether this is your first time or you've been with us for all 77 episodes. I appreciate you for joining us on this beautiful Friday. At least it's beautiful where I am. Hopefully it's the same where you are. But if you're not watching us live, again, and watching this on replay, we appreciate you watching this whenever you can consume your podcast or live videos. If you can't, we are available on YouTube and Facebook, and all these links will stay available for you. So make sure that you share, like, and repost and comment your questions on the show notes, because we can see those live. So if you have questions about anything that my guest or myself talk about today, we will be able to see those and answer your questions live. If you don't, go ahead and just tag us in the post, and we'll make sure that we get to that as well. But if you are listening to this via download as well on audio format, you can actually find us on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. Truly, wherever there is a podcast, I hope to be there. Just search Crossover Commerce with Ryan Cramer, and that's where we'll be as well. So go ahead and like and share and rate us on those platforms as well. But again, since this is a live episode, you can go ahead and comment in the show notes below. Make it tell us what you're thinking, if you disagree with something, if you have a specific question. But this isn't the only time we go live. I go live about 4 to 5 times per week with experts like my guest today, who is going to be anywhere in the e-commerce field or Amazon field with different varying degrees of expertise and different focuses. Today is no exception. But about our guest today, Liz is actually an e-commerce professional with a passion for helping brands succeed on Amazon and other marketplaces. She is committed to high quality content and education to the seller and a brand owner community know what and who they need to know in order to be successful. The company she works for is Teikametrics, and they offer an AI-powered software in addition to extremely expertly managed services to maximize potential of sellers and brand owners across the globe. Go ahead and help me welcome to the show, Liz Downing of Teikametrics. Liz, welcome to Crossover Commerce. How are you?
I'm great. You did it right. You did.
All right. Guys, this is a struggle. I promise you, if you're reading this, I 100% guarantee you will say it wrong. But I made sure I got it right today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. I had you on a webinar and you said it wrong, and then you just
I know, right?
Freaked out.
I freaked out and I was like, this is bullshit. And like, you know what? I was like, I'm just gonna run with it, make it a whole thing, and here we are today. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you there. You're located in Richmond, Virginia, which is my old stomping ground. So maybe for people who aren't familiar with you or Teikametrics, maybe give us paint the picture of you yourself. Give us an insight of how you got to where you are today, and then maybe a little bit about the company.
Sure, absolutely. So I am based in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a remote worker. The company is based in Boston, Massachusetts. So Boston nice. Strong.
Sorry. Lots of tech companies in Boston.
Yeah.
Like that's where Thrasio is technically located, and just a lot of good tech coming out of Boston, really.
Yeah. And it's kind of becoming an e-commerce hub, which is pretty cool. We'll be very glad when the world opens back up and we can start like doing events in person and that kind of stuff. Just got my first shot this week. So
That's always a plus.
Yeah.
Virginia, Indiana, where we're at, they're doing really well. Hopefully everyone out there is staying safe, of course, if you're listening to this. And I know soon enough, everyone's pretty much itching to get traveling again in a safe format. So yeah, that's super cool. I've never personally been to Boston, so I'm super excited. I lived in the 95 corridor, and I went up to New York once, and then Boston never. So I don't understand how I never did that, but here we are.
It's a great town. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a lot of our employees are based in Boston,
Nice.
but we moved to a remote first kind of situation when the pandemic started. And I actually have been with Teikametrics since August of 2020. But prior to that, I was with a different software company in the e-commerce space. I've been playing around in e-commerce pretty much since 2014, first as a freelance writer. And I actually shadowed a retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and wholesale seller here in Richmond who became like a great friend, but he was a mentor to me. And I got the bug, not so much to sell, but to learn everything about how to be successful on Amazon, because I watched the struggles of the Facebook groups I started to follow, the LinkedIn groups I started to follow. And I realized that there are a lot of different things that go into success on Amazon that you have to think about in order to actually win the game, because it's like crazy competitive, and occasionally Amazon kind of gets in your way a little bit. So
I mean they don't, they can help, but they certainly don't go out of their way to help you, but they can help in terms of like growth opportunities. But yeah, in terms of building a brand, not the same.
I will say though that the resources have gotten a lot better in terms of, here's how brand registry helps you. Here's how your A+ content can help you. Here's why you should have a storefront and all that kind of stuff. I mean, all that education exists on Seller Central now, but it's still
didn't used to. Yeah, it was kind of everyone uses the term in this industry, Wild West. It was figured out as you go, and if you found a really great solution, you stuck with it, even though it might have not been like quote unquote white hat, or it was more gray hat, or ways of finding to build a brand or build your solution. So, but now everything's cracked down, and I think you and I both agree like that there's the best way to build a brand and build a system. So awesome. So Teikametrics, you found them, they found you. How did that work out? Like what made you switch from the company in Virginia over to them?
It was just a really fortuitous conversation with Alistair McLean-Foreman, who's our CEO.
That's such a fancy sounding name, by the way. Like if Alistair's watching, that's such a badass name. I love it. Like such a fancy, like proper name. I hope that's what he was going for, or his parents were going for.
He's pretty much a badass anyway, so he should have a badass name. But we had a great conversation, I guess in June or July of 2020, about third-party brands on Amazon, and this idea that I've always had ever since, in 2014, I did not understand that people could sell on Amazon. I thought everything that you bought on Amazon, you bought from Amazon.
Jeff Bezos specifically.
Uncle Jeff. I bought it from Uncle Jeff.
Right.
And I got hired to edit an ebook that was about the 4 post-purchase emails you should send to your Amazon customers. And I was like, what? This is crazy. I didn't know this. So that's why I found a friend of a friend that was selling on Amazon. And I kind of got obsessed with the whole idea of third-party brands and success, and kind of flipping the switch on online retail, right? So if you go to a department store, or like back when you could go to department stores, when there were more department stores, you can go to that section of the purse department and find the fossil section or find the Coach section or whatever. But navigating Amazon by brand is a lot more difficult, because there are a lot of people still out there. I was actually just talking to somebody who's doing a big academic research study on Amazon sellers and Amazon brands, and brands that sell on Amazon. And there's a great wide swath of the consumer community that don't understand that they're buying from third-party brands, that
from
they're
other
buying
people. Almost like a mom and pop store. And that was, I've talked about this on I think this was on two sellers and a microphone over the guys over at Solozo, Dustin and Chris. I said that too, and to that point, sorry if I'm stepping on your toes, is like on Amazon or like on the radio stations, they're like, don't buy from Amazon, buy from small local businesses. And I'm pretty sure I was in the car and I threw something. Like I found something and I threw it. And my wife's like, what are you upset about? And I go, this is what I'm talking about. We have to fight this all the time. I say we, like a collective unit, like service industry of, it's not just like one major brand that's selling online. Yes, there are 1P sellers. And again, if you don't know what a 1P, it's like a brand that manufactures and distributes and sells their goods to Amazon, then they sell it online on their marketplace. But 65%, what's the stat now? Is it like 65% is third party now, like roughly, of all third party sellers who are selling their own goods, manufacturing it or reselling it on Amazon, and people like you and me are buying that, just offline, and people don't think twice. They don't know how to see it. And it's not in your face. Like you don't see like Ma's like trinkets or something like that on the side. You have to look for it. But
yeah. Well, and the way Amazon is set up for search, the person who's winning the buy box is who it's, sold by the seller and shipped by Amazon. That's how you know that it's coming from FBA.
Right.
But not everybody knows to look at that, right? And I don't know a whole lot of people other than myself that actually go to Amazon and type in a brand name to look for a product rather than typing in the product, like cell phone, earbuds.
Yeah, they're searching for like more keywords instead of
the way it goes. You search for keyword, you sort by prime, and you sort by star rating, and that's how everybody's learned to play the game in terms of succeeding on Amazon. But what I talked to Alistair about that summer was, what if we could change that? What if we could not only as software and service providers support the seller and brand owner community with great education and great resources and connecting the dots on things like we might not, that's one thing that I concentrate on a whole lot and have always in my entire career in e-commerce, is making sure that people know where to go for the things they need. That's why I love doing partner webinars and all that kind of stuff, because like I'm having a webinar with Joe Kovacs from BrandGuard next week, and we don't get unauthorized sellers off your listings, but he does. Right. And I know that our audience needs to know how that works, and that resource is out there. In terms of Teikametrics, which I didn't tell you guys about yet, if you haven't heard of us, we have really, really cool tech. So we've got AI powered software that helps you maximize your advertising potential on Amazon and Walmart. But we also have a awesome service team that can manage your services for you. And with Flywheel 2.0, which is our upcoming new release, we're going to be offering more insights into your marketplace performance, your inventory, that kind of stuff, so that you kind of have like one place that you can look to measure your performance, to know how you're supposed to advertise. It's going to be a more holistic solution. So we're super excited about that.
Nice. That's exciting. So SaaS company through and through, pretty much, with a little bit of services dabbled in there. What's kind of like the goal as the company grows? Is it, trying to take over and support e-commerce sellers, not just on Amazon, but like across e-commerce in general?
We definitely have a multi-channel like vision, but we want to make sure we're supporting Amazon, people who are selling on Amazon, people who are selling on Walmart. Those are our current two channels right now. Sure. But the goal is to be like a holistic solution for your marketplace control, so that you know where you are and you can make good decisions on all the little things that you have to make decisions about.
Exactly. So more like beginner sellers, but then also scaling, or where do you guys fit in the equation?
We run the gamut. We've got some great big brands. We do also we do advertising support for 1P as well as 3P.
Oh, nice.
But that obsession with third-party brands is sort of what Alistair and I clicked on, and he was like, well, why don't we do some cool stuff? So I said, okay. And we're working on it. It's definitely difficult in a pandemic, because I want to get out there and meet some of these third-party brands that I've been talking to. I've had such exciting conversations. I've met such amazing people. And I want the consumer community to know about these brands, about their story, how they got started selling on Amazon, how they came up with the idea for their product, all that kind of stuff. So that's some exciting work that's upcoming with us. And in the meantime, I'm just trying to like write as much as possible, do as much content as possible to help the seller and brand owner community, but also make those connections that I was talking about. So like people like you and me, that we are sort of all part of the same. You know, I get mad when people say don't buy on Amazon. You know, I don't know that I throw things, but
I mean, that was I have a beef with this like radio DJ anyways, because he says very like polarizing things like anyways. And I'm just like, it's just another thing. And I was like, that was a cherry on top, because again, I've had that conversation with so many different people of like, I didn't realize I could sell online. And like, that's the first education. Like back in 2014, I did the same thing with you. I was with a company locally there in Richmond that was called Evergreen Enterprises. Now it's where I cut my teeth in the e-com game. And they're a multi-million-dollar company, but they're an original, you know, I tell this story all the time. Their original focus was direct to, retail stores, like gift and garden shops, like all around the world. And they like grew it really big. And then, you know, as times changed and people were asking for stuff to sell like on QVC or on, you know, different marketplaces online, everyone's like, oh, maybe we should start selling online. And that's when FBA got really popular, as 2014, 2015 time period. And people like start to take off in that period. And that's where I like started to learn about it. But like growing e-commerce on just multiple different channels, and, you know, no one like thinks about that. You think about a brand's website, you think about going to like Macy's.com or going to like Coach, or, you know, somewhere where like they build out their own website where purchase can be made. But like Coach is selling to retail stores. They also have their own site. They also are selling on third-party sites. They're also selling on Amazon, I believe. So like maximizing a brand, how are you educating third-party sellers like in this regards? Because is it trying to compare them to big brands like that, or is it more like, hey, you can get out in front of like a buyer halfway around the world, and now you can start really growing out your product selection, and you can also start selling at a bigger scale than we could do in a retail store?
Yeah. So I think that some fundamental things apply to any size brand that's going to sell. Like, let's just talk about Amazon, since that's what I know the most about. Sure. But no matter what size you are, if you're a if you're selling 3P, you have certain things that you have to think about, right? So then there's the boring stuff that nobody wants to talk about, but I like to talk about ad nauseum, like your account health and making sure that you're like meeting all of Amazon's required metrics, so that you're not throttled there. You know, I mean, from everything from your seller feedback to your inventory performance index, if you get in trouble with any of those things, it's going to limit your ability to sell on Amazon. Like seller feedback rolls up into your order defect rate. If your order defect rate, you know, is at a certain account, you can just lose your whole account, and then you've got to try to get it back. And that's a big pain and costs money and loses money. With your inventory performance index, if you're not properly managing your inventory at FBA, then you miss out the next quarter on the amount of storage that you've got. You pay a ton in fees. It's just, so knowing the inside of Seller Central, knowing what metrics Amazon uses to measure your success is all very, very important. Even before you start thinking about your listing optimization, retail readiness of your products, whether you've done your testing or how you're getting product reviews. And we'll talk about all of that today. But the very first thing is that your account health needs to be as close to perfect as possible. And you need to be really, really savvy about what Amazon expects from you as a third-party brand. And it doesn't matter what size you are. If you don't meet the criteria, you suffer for it.
Right. So is that something where people just from the get-go don't educate themselves on what's expected of a brand seller? Or
yeah, I think so. And there's a lot of great education out there now. There back in the Wild West days, there were a lot of educators, coaches, that kind of stuff that were taking a whole lot of money and not providing a whole lot of value. And we're not going to name any names, but there's some really.
I had this conversation last night too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
God bless Clubhouse. God bless, chat rooms and things like that. But what you're getting at is when people provide a service and they're saying it costs $20,000, for example, a course or whatever, and they're not telling you what value or expectation. They're not setting up expectations, right? They're just saying this is what it costs, not guaranteeing successes or anything like that. And then the seller or anyone who entrusts, that capability or that course to do some sort of value, they don't get anything out of it. Is that ethically, good, ethically bad, or that's never something that us in the service industry want that for sellers. We want people to trust the content that they're hearing about is going to be legitimate, it's impartial, it's based on expertise, advice. Again, each business is different. It's never the same for each seller. So but unfortunately there's people out there that have taken advantage of people. So how do we are trying to do it right, combat that?
Well, I think that's what you and I try to do. I know that we're kind of in that same club of people that, okay, here it's a big industry, but it's a small industry in terms of you see a lot of us together a lot of the time because we trust each other. We like each other's businesses. We recommend each other's businesses. And it's not because of any reason other than I think this is the right decision for you, brand or seller or, e-commerce professional, business owner. However you identify,
entrepreneur, successful, whatever, however you identify, and that's the thing is bad actors always get the spotlight, but the people who I say do work the good fight or fight the good fight, it's always it's not exciting. But when people do flashy things, again, it's not the fault of YouTube or anything like that, but you just do a quick search on it and you can get drawn in by the great marketing that some of these people do. And then all of a sudden, they were successful in a certain capacity, but then they start to push the boundaries. They push the edge too far. And cross the line more.
And I think that most of us that have been around for a while, most of us that do a whole lot of work with different partners in the industry, we're all committed to the completely white hat, completely on the up and up. We're not going to teach you any tricks that are going to get you in any trouble. I mean, at least I'm not going to teach you any tricks. I don't know about Ryan over here, but I'm not going to do that.
I'm real shady, guys. Don't worry.
Well, there are a couple of that I don't want to spend too much time on account health and just doing it smart. But if you're going to use software, make sure it's in the Amazon App Store, because that means Amazon says, "Yep, this is fine." There's some things you can do. If you're listening to people, talk on YouTube, kind of vet them. Look at their LinkedIn. Look at their website, look at, Google Better Business Bureau, because that would have helped a lot of people back in 2015. Maybe get their $35,000 back. But, I mean, there are ways. Well, and look at reputable industry conferences. I'm on the advisory council for the Prosper Show, which we're, going to do live in July. So everybody...
I kept hearing about that. I haven't been approached by anyone, so this is the first I'm hearing about it. But I didn't know they were trying to do it live. Yeah, we're gonna do it live in Las Vegas in July 13th through the 15th. So, I'll pop a link later in the replay. I don't want to find it right now because I'll get completely derailed. But a conference like that's been around. It was formed by James Thompson, who is absolutely trustworthy resource. Employee 13 or 7 of Amazon. It was something pretty early on.
James knows what's up, and he started that conference for Amazon sellers. It is the absolute end all be all of Amazon conferences. So, I mean, if you're looking at software and service providers and they're on the list of sponsors there, they're on the list of speakers there, that's a pretty good way to know that they're authoritative. or just listen to me. I'll just tell you who's on the up and up and who's not. Ryan too.
We'll
do that
yeah,
too.
we'll forward you to the right people. Oh, I just saw this, and for the people who are watching us online, I threw it in the comment section, but prospershow.com is the link. But I saw the advisory council, which is pretty big, like people in the space. Like I saw Carlos Alvarez, Chris McCabe, yourself, Rachel Greer. Yeah, lots of good people.
Yep, Karina McLeod, Jeff Cohen, Peter Kearns. We got the band together.
So what is like this is a new thing, right? This is something like more people on behalf of the service industry.
Yeah, since Emerald took over the Prosper Show, they decided, if you want to know the industry, then get some industry people in here to tell you stuff and introduce you to people and recruit speakers and all that kind of stuff. So the agenda is shaping up to be amazing. I think it's probably going to be like one of the very, very best Prosper shows ever.
So with that being said, I kind of want to take it's how you build a brand and how you network with people. So I think this applies to our topic. So how do you try to plan for this kind of as a moving target for somebody or something where people are coming out of the pandemic? I'm assuming that's the number one thing for people. Is it just assuming that everyone's going to be pretty much, or lots of people are going to be attending? Like, what's that in the vision for this board doing this event?
Well, I think, we were all sort of telling each other what we're hearing from our customers, our audiences, the people that we're friends with, the people that we're connected to. I don't think that it hurts that the vaccine is rolling out faster than anticipated. So that is probably going to help a lot too. I don't think there's going to be any kind of requirement or anything like that, but it will be socially distant. It will be COVID safe. There will be lots and lots of socially distant and COVID safe practices in place.
That's awesome.
To keep everybody safe. So lots of hand sanitizer. And
I was gonna say the giveaway should be buckets and buckets of hand sanitizer for everyone I'm sure at every station will be like branded hand sanitizer across the board.
Yeah.
Or how you innovate it. Start making your orders now for branded content. Interesting. So events, obviously you're making more connections with third-party sellers. So what's that so maybe more like what's the initial conversation like for you when you're approaching a third-party seller or they're using your services? How are you finding these people, and how are you what's that education process like moving forward, and how are you helping them handhold them to hopefully where they can eventually grow to something of a brand powerhouse or grow to whatever level they want to grow to?
Well, before you can advertise, obviously, you need to do certain things to get yourself retail ready and get your products retail ready. So setting up your Amazon account the right way, getting your listings where they need to be, and everything about your listing, obviously, is super, super important. So your product title, you have to have a proper keyword strategy. Your product photos need to be amazing. That's what really differentiates. I did a webinar with Snap 36, and they do that 360 photography, and that stuff's really, really cool. But anything you can do to stand out with your listing is really, really important just off the bat. And we don't do that, but there are lots and lots of reputable people that do, that help you with the listing copy, help you with listing photos. You can use, PickFu? If you want to get opinions on that's such a cool service. I love those guys, but you can kind of crowdsource opinions on which product photo is better. And there are lots and lots of people that can educate you on how to do this yourself. There are people that will do it for you. But all of that needs to be, in place. You need to have brand registry in order to have a successful brand on Amazon. You need to have your A+ content. It used to be enhanced brand content, but now it's all A+ content for 1P and 3P.
In parentheses, EBC.
Yeah. But that's important too. And once you get all of that together, then that's when you can successfully advertise. But there are other things too. Like I said, I'm doing that webinar with Joe from BrandCard, because if you have unauthorized sellers on your listings right out the gate that are stealing the buy box, you can't run ads unless you have the buy box. So
Right.
there's a lot to think about before you can actually start advertising. Advertising is just like part of the equation for success. Actually, in order for your ads to be successful, you have to do all this other stuff first. And then there's all this other stuff that you have to keep track of too, like your inventory, like if there are changes to your listings, that are, because there are people out there that are actively attacking reputable accounts too. That's what Cynthia Stein and I were talking about during a webinar in January. And she was just on a big panel with me last week. I think it was last week. But I mean, there are people that are slapping hazmat into other people's listings to get it pulled down. She has this.
What do you mean by that? So if someone's listening to this and they're like, what is when you're talking about attacking? Like, some people don't understand or maybe haven't come across this. What does it look like when your account gets attacked?
It can look like all kinds of things. They can come at you through your listing in that they could just change the wording. They could slap a hazmat in there. They could put non-compliant language in your listing. And in one terrible case that Cynthia talked about, she had one customer that somebody kept changing the photos to pornography. So just kept happening over and over and over again.
They changed out the image. So I guess my question, I've never understood this. Maybe you can kind of shed light on this. How does someone get access to your listing in order to do that? Like, they're not hacking Amazon, are they? Or are they hacking your listing specifically? How do you do that? Like, not to say I want to educate people how to do this, but how does someone go in and change that stuff and break into
There are a couple of different ways. Sometimes they hack your actual seller account. Other times, like, you can go to Amazon and look at a listing and not even have a Seller Central account and click the button that says sell this product,
Oh, right. Okay.
So then, you're prompted to, create a Seller Central account. And do you want a professional account, or do you want, it's not as easy as it used to be, and there are like bot farms and just changing, like, there are plenty of ways that competitors and black hats can come after you without actually accessing your listings, because they can upvote negative reviews. They can bombard you with negative reviews,
suppress your listing, basically.
Yeah. So that's something that you have to monitor for, all the while thinking about how to best position your products, how to get product reviews that are legit and verified purchase reviews, which is something I used to talk about all the time, but now I don't. It's harder and harder. Amazon just got rid of the early reviewer program, which was something they kind of rolled out as hey.
That was this last week they announced that.
Yeah. Well, so, that was sort of like because we're getting rid of incentivized reviews in October 2016, which is what I called Reviewgate, because it was a huge, huge upset in the industry. Amazon rolled out the early reviewer program as like, okay, well, so we'll do this. And this is a Amazon approved program, and it's not very expensive, and it's great for brands that are just launching, products that are just launching on Amazon.
Right. By definition, it was something that people can like feature newer products to the space, right? That's by definition what it was. You can go in there, give your incentive, or give, not an incentive, but it was almost like a space for people to go in and see new products that are being rolled out. And
you would enroll, and then somebody who bought your product would just be approached by Amazon to say, hey, and Amazon could give them like a $5, $1, $2 Amazon gift card. Right. So Amazon could incentivize their review, but you couldn't.
Of course.
But that was for people who already had purchased your item. So I think that's probably why it wasn't all that successful for every single brand that tried it, because you've got to get people to purchase your products in order for that program to work. Mm-hmm. And if people aren't seeing your products, then they're not going to purchase them. So that's that whole, like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You have to have some product reviews in order to get product reviews, but you can't have too many product reviews to use the early reviewer program. So hopefully Amazon's coming up with something else.
Right.
They did roll out the request a review button so that people had a way to request reviews without you sending buyer seller messaging, because people kept messing that up. But hopefully they're coming out. And I know the Vine program is still active, and that's when they actually you supply products to give to Vine voices, who are people who have proven that they leave fair and honest product reviews.
I've heard that's that's changing too, like in the last day or so, that it's going to be like not everyone has access, or the financing to get access to it is also going to change.
Well,
too.
it was free for a while, and you know that's not going to last forever.
Amazon doesn't always give it away for free. Exactly. I always tell the joke, and it's almost everyone who listens to this podcast knows, is Amazon. If you look at Amazon, there's a fee somewhere associated with it. Like you just like look at it and they're charging you a fee. Like it's ridiculous. I mean, it's kind of crazy, like all the places that they tack on. And even now they're adjusting like different fees. They like updated their fee structure and whatnot, and coming out with like the liquidation program again, and like re-rolling that out, and like changing product packaging on how they're like upcharging like 2% on most packaging items, and down charging a couple of other things, but not across the board, not too much stuff. So it's always interesting in terms of the fee structure, what they're charging. But Vine, I don't think is free anymore. I think it's very much a pay to play again.
Well, before it was free, it was $2,500 a product, so that's rich that's a little too rich for some people's blood. And especially since you're not guaranteed a review, and you're not guaranteed a positive review, obviously, because it's got to be an honest review. And your Vine voice might not like your product. They might have some things to voice about it that you don't like. So hopefully Amazon will come up with something else. But in the meantime, you just have to do it the old fashioned way. Have a really great product first, and then. Yeah.
Ultimately, isn't that a fair assessment to say, like, Amazon, like, if you have a good product and just not a piece of crap or garbage that you're trying to package well, ultimately, isn't that what this is supposed to be? Is like the good stuff will rise to the top and the hot garbage will, disappear?
Ideally, yeah, of course. But I know plenty of brands that have great products that have still struggled with visibility just because of the algorithm, how product reviews play into the algorithm, what the competitor landscape is like, which is something that's really important to keep track of too. And something that we've added actually to our current Flywheel product is some marketplace insights so that you can kind of get an idea of what your competitors are up to. Mm-hmm. But yes, theoretically, if you've got a great product, it's going to rise to the top. Unfortunately, there are things that you have to think about, things that you need to do every day to make sure your account health is good, make sure your listings are airtight and absolutely perfect, and make sure everything is like the very perfect environment for you to effectively advertise using Amazon's ad products. But Amazon's actually introduced some new things in terms of brand promotion that I think have a chance to be successful.
What are those things?
Well, so there's the Amazon, what is it? Posts, profiles, lists, and live. And I know that I've heard varying experiences on Amazon Lives, but like Rachel, we were talking about Rachel from Cascadia, they're doing lives for a lot of their customers, and they're seeing some really, really good results from that. Yeah. So I think like partnering with somebody who's already doing it, or like, I did a webinar with her about it. I think she's speaking about it at Prosper, like listening to what's out there from somebody who's already doing it will help you take advantage of some of these things that Amazon has rolled out. Amazon spent a ton of money on these like new kind of social options. So like Amazon Live is like their version of YouTube.
QVC,
and post. Yeah. And it's what's successful is like a very QVC type, like Billy Mays, repetitive, infomercial format is what Rachel says works best for it. But if you do it right and at the right time, it can show up, in really advantageous places and get in front of.
I like the live aspect of it as well. It's not, I only see it really promoted, especially around Prime Day mostly, but I know a lot more brands are working with live influencers, if that makes sense. So if you're listening to this or watching this, how Amazon Live works is they go through a series like think QVC. They're talking through products. They're live testing. It's almost like an influencer if you see it like on TikTok, but this is almost like a spread out with very much more in-depth conversation about a product or a suite of products, or like like it could be about kids toys and they'll have a bunch of different kids toys, or more like home and kitchen products, and you can actually feature and show them real time, like you cooking or using these tools real time, for example. And then right below that is that you can buy that right then and there, right on Amazon, right? So that's naturally what QVC does. Instead of you picking up a phone and calling a 800 number, you just click 3 buttons and boom, it's heading to your house in 2 days or less, for some of us. So that's really cool. And then even recently, I think in the beta program, I know I saw Yoni Mazur from Gatita. He actually posted this, and I saw it and started doing more in depth. It was Amazon like travel, or Amazon like something where you can actually shop with a one-on-one personality around the world in different countries, and they'll like tour you around like a city or whatnot. You can go to different small businesses and purchase products from there. Like I think it's planned out clearly, but you'd have almost like a interactive shopping person in a different foreign country around the world, which is like the most crazy thing to think about. But I instantly thought of like some digital sellers and nomads. I go, you guys should check this out. This would be really cool if you guys did this. Or, I instantly thought of people who might take advantage of that as something kind of unique and different to help small businesses like around the world. But also, people are going to sit at home, and instead of watching TV or Netflix, they might just like watch somebody walk through the streets of Florence, Italy, and like there's a market with a leather handbag, and like, yeah, can you buy that for me? And bada boom, like you can purchase it and get it to your house and fulfilled. And I don't know how long, like I don't know how that logistically happens. There he is, look at it. I speak and he says it into place. Shoppers can visit places in the world via Amazon. Call it Amazon Explore. Awesome. Thanks, Yoni, for listening and assisting. I think it's a really cool idea. Also, giving a shout out to David Dayon. Happy Friday.
Hi, David.
David, what's up, everyone? So they're always posting this content too, which is awesome to like for people in the service industry like those guys. We always have our pulse on what's new with Amazon. And I think that's the cool thing about this space is like there's innovative ways to get your products and resources in front of people and build a brand in that capacity. So are you guys seeing, is there a hole in the market right now in terms of where building a brand isn't very helpful or successful on Amazon?
You mean in terms of like a particular product category, or?
Yeah, that, or is there a place like is Amazon lacking in a certain like venue that it could support brands better, but it's not?
Well, yeah. I mean, that was like a total setup question.
That's what I do here.
there are
what could they do like that's an easy like softball that would help everyone wins, like Amazon wins?
What they did over the holidays was pretty cool. I can't remember what they called it, but there was like this spotlight on mid-sized third-party brands that Amazon did. They were like, here, take a look and shop these stores, and I can't remember what it was called, but more stuff like that. Certain features, I mean, there are things that they're already doing that could be enhanced that I think would be great. But the problem is that Amazon is huge. It's grown. It's like the biggest, like it's huge, but it's still a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it does so many different things, you've got the marketplace, but then you've also got AWS, and you've got streaming, and you've got all this stuff going on. I don't know that organizationally they're in a place to start thinking about, gee, how do we really, really support these third-party brands that are selling on our marketplace? I think that there are teams that's their whole job, but I also think that like great change is not going to happen overnight, and it's not necessarily going to happen anytime soon, which is what we're here for.
Great.
We're here to teach you off Amazon advertising too. I mean, so like we help you with your on Amazon advertising. You're helping people expand to international marketplaces. We're helping support international marketplace expansion, which is all a big part of growing your brand internationally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, who knows? You've got to do research too. You've got to figure out, I was just talking to Yana from YLT Translations, and she's great at helping you figure out not only like how to properly translate your listing, not using Amazon's translation service, which is like worse than Google's, but also how to talk to the audience in a particular country. Like, what are the demographics? Like, what speaks to that culture that doesn't
know their love language, right? Almost like, how do you communicate with an audience that values different things? Whether it's, especially in Japan, I had Ritu Java of PPC Ninja, and she was talking about the Japanese marketplace and how do you stand out in that regards. Like, you have to speak to them how, like, you almost have to fit into culture, and that's difficult for people who've either never been there or understand like what is successful, but then go into services like them, or for that marketplace, or if you're speaking to them in that context, that then you're going to be more successful in that way. So it's almost like understanding, essentially the language.
Absolutely. So the bottom line is that there are lots of resources in this industry. And actually, Yoni and David were just here, and they are part of, and we are part of the Ecom Cooperative, which is a relatively new.
Same.
Yeah. So we've all kind of banded together to offer resources, offer free resources. You should pop a link to that to everybody too in the show notes.
We'll do that
because it's free for sellers and brand owners to join. So you guys should do that. I'm super excited to be part of it. Giving back to the Amazon seller community is like what we're about. And that's what Ryan does this podcast for. And that's why we do educational things, because you need more support than what Amazon is able to give you right now. I don't think Amazon's got it out for third-party brands, and unless it's one of those specific cases where, all of a sudden there's an Amazon's Choice product that looks just like yours, but it's way cheaper. There are situations where they're not your friend, but most of the time they're definitely not your enemy.
So what is it? So what are the exciting things there to build a brand? Like, I always talk about micro influencers to kind of like help build out your brand and whatnot. I've personally spoken with, and this is also because of Yana and Lazar over at Sellers Alley. He introduced me to the global head of partnerships for TikTok, and they're really pushing how to align with third-party sellers and third-party e-commerce marketplace sellers, as well as Amazon sellers, and drive traffic from their platform, because there's so much visibility and using ads to drive them to like listings on Amazon or even Shopify stores or whatnot. Like, those are starting to become available for lots of people.
There's a lot of power there. And right. I think that's a great strategy. You don't have to spend a ton of money in order to get some off Amazon advertising and initiatives, marketing initiatives that are driving traffic to your Amazon listings. And Amazon's never going to get mad about you driving traffic to Amazon. They get mad about you taking traffic away from Amazon, but there are
purchase outside of Amazon. Yeah.
So many cool things that you can do. Like, TikTok is a great opportunity. Instagram's still a great opportunity, actually. And I think the influencer space is sort of starting to even out a little. For a while, I wasn't recommending trying to find influencers because it was either too expensive or, for a while there, everybody was an influencer. But now there are niche influencers, and there are services and people out there that can help you find the right one and sort of like matchmake that for you. There are actual tools that can do it, like websites that can do it. But then there are people like Norm Farrar that will help you come up with a strategy for micro influencers. He's got a great podcast too, Lunch with Norm.
Yep. Been on with Lunch with Norm, and I love listening to his stuff. And then his colleague over at the chat marketing marketing agency, Paul Barron, will also be on the show coming up again. Him and we've been on a lot of Clubhouse rooms together. So he's constantly talking about like work with smaller people, and and this is the thing that's really cool that he always touts. And I suggest, he did the brand the right way, using his influencers or his community he's built out, and asking for like images and content that they produce themselves and that he can reuse as his own social content. It's free collateral and whatnot, and in exchange of either, it's just a loyalty thing. He's just asked them to do that, and they willingly submit them using the product that he's selling on Amazon. And I think that's how you build a brand and how you build loyalty. And, you do it the right way. I think that's the innovative way to do it.
That user submitted content is so powerful.
So cool.
But in order to get that, you have to have people that love your brand. And again, to have people to love your brand, you need to have a really great brand with really great products. But then you've got to figure out how to get it to market and keep it there.
Yep.
But that's what we're here for.
I was going to say, so what are the cool ways that you guys are trying to innovate and stand out from the rest of the seller or the service community and really empower third-party sellers and grow them in that context? Well, is it brand first? Keeping brand focus first?
Yeah, don't underestimate the power of just sponsored product ads, but there's so much more to understanding the competitive landscape and then understanding how to position yourself correctly on the marketplace that you're selling on, especially on Amazon. But we're deep diving into DSP and exploring how that can really be a game changer. And actually, I think we're talking about that at Prosper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Lots of people I know, like Destiny with Sean, and those guys actually have a really cool. If you're on Clubhouse, I would suggest this too. I think it might be at noon. Her and Joe. I think Sheelan, I forget his last name. I just talked to him yesterday, but I just know him as Joe of Ad Advance. They're going to be talking and have a room going on, talking about advertising on Amazon and DSP, I believe, as well. So both of them do very different, similar things, but in terms of an agency, it's a cool, cool topic that they're going to be talking about. So check it out.
I love listening to Destiny talk. I just love it.
We have a cool mastermind group. I say mastermind, it's me and 3 other people. She's one of them, that we just talk advertising for about an hour every other week, and other things too, but advertising and what people are doing that are different. It's not just on Amazon, but other cool things we're seeing, and it's other service agencies, sellers, things like that. So it's a cool, pick a brain. I love hearing her talk and say did you guys see this? Or, I have this insight about this. And she's a great person to listen to and just absorb everything. And I think been 3 years in the business and just crushing it. And their team's growing. Just everyone in this space is growing because they're helping people. More people are coming on Amazon, but they're students first. Do you understand? I think that's where best sellers and service providers are always students first, and they're understanding what's out there and learning from other people first, instead of saying, I know what's up, I'm going to do it my way and no other way.
That's
you have. Yeah.
I think consuming the right information is key to success. And do you feel like Clubhouse is a really great resource for people that are looking for success as third-party sellers on Amazon? Or do you feel like it's more of a space for the rest of us to talk? Because that's sort of what I've experienced, is it's a bunch of us talking, but not a whole lot of.
I think it's a little both. It depends on the accepting nature. So yesterday, Athena over at Titan Network. So just by happenstance, she just announces, and they have I like their program over there. I'm not too ingrained with their network, but I like a lot of the I know a lot of the head people over there, and have talked with Kian, who's a sourcing wizard, basically. So there's a lot of great minds over there. And so she starts a room, and you have instantly 300 people show up and talking Amazon. And then you have people who are Emma from Marketing by Emma. You have Yana show up. You have Carlos Alvarez who shows up. Lots of people just get pinged and hey, what are we going to talk about? And instantly it becomes a mastermind group quickly of service providers. And then it kind of morphs into its own, let's talk about different things going on. And, but I know there's spaces out there for starter community. And that's always hard to ask, because when you have all these big powerhouses in there, you jump in and you have someone ask hey, yesterday the question came up of, from a seller. I have this box of 6 like aromatherapy clips. It was very, very specific question of like how do I do this? And everyone's like, do we spend the time to talk about this, or is it relevant to everyone else, or is it just servicing one person? So it's always like this balance that I found. It's hard to help one person individually, not like a one-on-one call, but like making sure that it's applicable to everyone. Does that make sense?
I guess, but I would kind of think that like of all the platforms and all of the ways to consume information out there, Clubhouse maybe should be the one where somebody could ask a specific question about their particular product and get
it like changed like
answer.
Yeah, the dynamic of the room changed because like you have new sellers that then came in and cycled through because you saw Amazon in the title, you're listening to questions, and like at the end she like let me take over, and it was myself and a couple other people who were like facilitating questions and giving our insights on like what we thought. And then, you know, that's the scary thing is like you want to give like personalized advice, and it's like you're not looking at people. It's like having a phone conversation with someone. Like Mark Zuckerberg like yesterday was on. I had no idea, and I was really upset because it was closed. By the time I found out he was on there, he was just talking with like the Shopify CEO and a couple other people. So it's a good platform, I think, to like listen and understand like insights from different people. But you have to find like the right rooms and the right facilitators and moderators to make sure that stays the focus, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's I think it's going to continue to grow in a good space for like, you know, people not record content. And if you're not there, then you're missing out. And that's the big thing is like conferences. If you're not there, you're missing out on either relationship building or, you know, building your brand with other people or just making those connections. So I've met a bunch of connections just through Clubhouse by like being a speaker on stage and whatnot. So it's a cool platform. I like it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it could go a lot of places. I know a lot of Android users that are bummed about it though.
That's why Apple spiked and became the #1 selling phone again. It's because everyone's like, I'm buying an iPhone, like just for specifically this. And like I get it, like you listen to the CEO's talk of Clubhouse, and I've talked about this on this podcast a little bit, is like they're a team of like 15. Like it's a tiny team, and they've already scaled it so big. I think they're evaluated at $1 billion+ already because of the opportunity of what could happen. But I can imagine it'd be like me, you, and like a bunch of people like servicing, you know, like the ultimate of what we could do on our platform, and just like trying to like ebb and flow and get all these suggestions quickly. And we're like, what do we start? Like, do you like build out content that's already available? Do you build out on a new platform? Like they just celebrated their 1-year anniversary, and it's already like, when are you going to be on Android? When are you going to be like doing ads, or like, how are you monetizing and all this other stuff? So it's interesting for sure. But yeah, I mean, building a brand through it's not terrible. I think people have found a good way to do that and stand out and provide really great content. I still think like podcasts are really booming. I think there's lots of, oh, look at that. Speaking of, there's Yana. What's up, Yana? Yana and I like, Yana got into the Facebook group or listen to Mark Zuckerberg yesterday. So I'm super jealous. I'm curious what he was talking about. So she'll have to fill me in later, but anyways, like, yeah, just how you build a brand, it's like ever changing, right? It's packaging, it's, you know, making sure you're compliant. Is that, and I guess before we kind of cap off we're a little bit after the top of the hour, how's brands affected when they're getting purchased and are exiting their business? Is that a major factor, you think, when people are exiting their business? Or is that something that you think an aggregator doesn't necessarily care about?
Well, I mean, obviously, if a brand is maximized and optimized, they're going to be more successful, thus more attractive for purchase, right? That's just the numbers, you know? So I don't, but I know that there are some aggregators that are just concentrating on buying reselling businesses, like really, really successful reselling businesses. So I think it depends on the aggregator. It depends on the brand. I know that if I were a brand owner, I would be a little concerned about the brand I created and how it persisted on the marketplace once I let go of it. But that's just me and my future brand for my retirement.
Do you think that's actually, I was going to say, is that something that you think is a negative too? Like if it's so unique to that individual. It's like tied, like if I'm the face of like Ryan's beard oil or something like that, and I build a brand around like what I look like or who I am, aggregator may not want to purchase my brand, right? Because it's tied directly to a person or like an identity, if that makes sense, right? Does that make sense to you? Do you think that affects negatively in terms of exiting a business?
I think it depends on what you sort out with someone who's interested in purchasing your business. If you're fine with them taking your likeness and you're fine with them taking like the assets you've created that look like your face, then
you start seeing yourself on billboards everywhere and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. I think that this is still pretty new and time's going to tell. It's big news though. And it's confusing for a lot of sellers, but I also have lots of brands that I've been talking to that are gearing up, man. They're ready to close out one brand and move on to the next one. So
yeah. Was it surprising to you that Thrasio only acquired their 100th business yesterday or a few days ago when they announced that? Does it feel like it should have been like 1,000 to you? Like, or something like
I didn't really have an expectation around, like, I just thought it was probably more than that. Given how like much in the news they are and the amount of funding that they've managed to, but I
feel like I've had that conversation. Everyone's like, did you realize it was I say only, like that's a lot. Like that's a lot of brands. And like they have it's probably closer to 20,000 products or SKUs that they're, running now and ASINs are running. But I say only, like that's a lot, but only is not a lot too. Like you think like they push probably for the better part of last year. Like I would say June, like almost 9 months now that you're funneling through lots of, I'm assuming you're getting consistent inbound traffic. You have brokers who we know in the space who are out there who are constantly pushing, brands and trying to exit businesses. And you're going through stacks of, potential acquisitions. And they say like it's a quick exit, but I feel like of only 100, like that funnel seems small to me.
But if you think about like prior to this phenomenon, when you had an umbrella brand that represented several brands, it was never 100,
Right.
Well, I mean, in a couple of cases it was, but generally and their whole businesses, like 100 whole businesses is a lot of businesses, because that's what we've been talking about today, right? Is like everything you have to think about in order to build a successful business to sell on Amazon, like building a successful brand, having successful products, having a successful strategy. And then you sell to somebody, you sell to an aggregator and they want to take you to the next level, but they want to take the business that you've sold them to the next level.
Do you think like the next level is a lot of cases, is that just like logistics? Like that's where the next level comes in. It's not the brand, because I'm assuming they're almost like the brand is good. It's like in its infancy, or it's like in its like teenage years. Like you can see where it's going to where it's going to hit before it kind of like pops basically. But
wasn't it you that told me that the first thing that they're doing, like once a brand is acquired, is international growth? Yeah.
That's what they look like. I've had Jim Mann talk to me and I go, where are people growing? Like, where's the easy outlets? It's throw them into international marketplaces, and then also look at the operations in terms of like putting in retail stores. Like this year, this is the roadmap that I've been told. Again, this can be internal or this can be all external knowledge. It's how do you get brands and products that they've already acquired into retail stores? Makes sense. Walmart, like Costco, whatever that might be. And then you look into getting into China, Japan. Like those are the two big ones that they look at 2022. So I see a roadmap like this year it's Europe and then retail. And then next year it's China and Japan, which makes sense. Like those are very difficult places to get into. In very big markets and opportunity to get to. China, I specifically know China is a very like tough cookie to crack because of all logistics and all the compliance reasons that you have to go inbound and outbound. So that makes sense. But building out a team takes time, building out resources and finding, that's where all the new sellers are coming from. So that's where a lot of operations are coming from. It's where Anchor came from, and that they're a publicly traded company. So there is opportunity there from like working with suppliers and manufacturers, but that's kind of their roadmap. So, but yeah, how they grow international if a brand's not doing that.
Yep.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, I know we both have to go and there's other things we got to do. So before we kind of like wrapped up this podcast, Liz, what are the best places to connect with you and Teikametrics?
My email address is ldowning@teikametrics.com.
Nice.
Anybody can email me any question. If I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody who does. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Liz Downing on LinkedIn.
Love it.
I'm
Awesome.
around. I'm on Clubhouse. I'm hanging out everywhere. So
exactly. Yeah, we try to be everywhere at once, but that's how we get pulled in like 10 different directions. And as you know, like we're all fighting the good fight. So I appreciate your time coming on here.
Thank you, Ryan.
It's awesome. Great content as always and chatting with you. I'm sure we'll hop around Clubhouse together at some point.
It's always fun.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Anytime you want to hop on, you're now a friend of the show. So we appreciate your time today. Thanks again, Liz Downing.
Thank you, Ryan.
Awesome. And for everyone, again, for this is your first time, or if this is, again, you've been on here with every episode of Crossover Commerce. My name is Ryan Cramer. I'm the host of this show. I go live about 4 to 5 times per week with leaders like Liz in the Amazon and e-commerce industry. Next week, we have a really big slate of heavy hitters in the space. We're talking an aggregator in Fortinet. We're going to have the founders on here on Monday. We're going to be talking PPC Entourage and Matt, their director of marketing. There's a slew of different people that are going to be hopping on in terms of both sellers, aggregators, as well as service industry leaders to help you grow and take away different nuggets from each episode. That's my hope for you, but I appreciate you tuning in live, or if you're watching this later, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and obviously share this with your community if you find something that is valuable to you, or go ahead and like that on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. I'm Ryan Cramer, the host of this show. Again, thanks for joining and tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time on Crossover Commerce.